All right, let's be real. The world of AI is, well, it's a lot of noise, right? So today we're going to cut through all that. We are going to focus on the signal. We'll break down what a veteran AI engineer is actually paying attention to in 2026 so you can see what really matters.
Okay, so let's just start with a big dose of reality. Read this quote. Does it sound familiar? It probably does. We've been promised this huge AI revolution, but honestly, the day-to-day can still feel clunky. And that frustration, that's exactly where we're going to start our search for the real signals of progress.
So, to get right to it, we're going to focus on 5 key signals today. First up, a reality check on where AI is right now. Then we'll look at what Google is doing on the quiet. After that, we'll dive into a big debate between agents and workflows, check out the new tools developers are using, and finally, we'll talk about where you fit in all of this. Let's get into it.
All right, first topic. So even with all the hype and all the progress we've seen, there is this one fundamental problem with AI tools today that's really holding things back. And it raises a pretty big question about where we're headed.
And that central challenge, it's still hallucination. The analogy here is just perfect. It's like having that coworker who is an absolute genius, super smart, but then every once in a while they just make stuff up, and they say it with total confidence, so you can never fully 100% trust them. And that one issue? That's the biggest thing stopping us from building truly reliable AI systems.
And look, this isn't some small bug that we can just patch and move on. We're talking about top experts here, guys like Jan LeCun over at Meta. And the consensus is that our current approach, just build bigger models, throw more data at them, it's hitting a wall. We're getting to a point where the improvements are getting smaller and smaller, and it's pretty clear this path alone is not going to get us to real artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
So here's what you really need to pay attention to. Forget about all the noise around tiny little bumps and benchmark scores. That's not the signal. The real signals are these 2 things right here. First, the deep, fundamental research into totally new ways to build intelligence. And second, all the clever engineering tricks that let us squeeze every last bit of power out of the models we already have.
Okay, on to our second signal. And this one is interesting because while everyone's eyes were glued to what OpenAI was doing, another huge player has been quietly making some seriously strategic moves in the background.
And the big idea here is pretty bold, but it's powerful. The thinking is that Google isn't just trying to build the best model. No, they're playing a much bigger game. They're trying to own the entire AI stack, from top to bottom.
And this slide just lays out their strategy perfectly. Look at these 4 pillars. It's kind of genius. They've got best-in-class models for language, images, video, you name it. They've got their own custom chips, their TPUs, which means they don't have to rely on NVIDIA like everyone else. They have, you could argue, the biggest and best data set on the planet. And then, the real kicker, they're building the new protocol for how these advanced AIs are all going to talk to each other. When you put it all together, that's a seriously powerful position to be in.
So to really get why that 4th pillar, that A-to-A protocol, is such a big deal, let's just compare it to what we had before. Remember the MCP protocol? Everyone was talking about it. That was basically like giving an AI a tool belt. Cool, right? But also kind of limited. Well, Google's A-to-A is a whole different ballgame. The analogy here is better. It's not a tool belt. It's a team of specialists that can actually work together and delegate tasks to each other. The ambition here is just on another level. Okay, so this leads us perfectly into our 3rd signal, and this is a big one. It's this huge debate happening inside pretty much every AI engineering team right now. The question is, how on earth do you build something reliable with these incredibly powerful, but let's be honest, sometimes really unpredictable models?
And it really boils down to this trade-off right here. On one hand, you've got what we call deterministic workflows, or DAGs. Just think of them as super strict step-by-step instructions. They're reliable, they're easy to test, and they're perfect for things that absolutely cannot go wrong, like in banking. But then on the other hand, you have these flexible agents. This is where you just give the AI a goal and some tools and say, hey, figure it out. It's amazing for creative stuff, but man, it is way harder to control and test.
And this isn't just some abstract idea. Look at this quote from Anthropic, one of the top AI labs out there. They're literally telling developers, hey, for most things, it's way better to just focus on simple, predictable setups than these complex agent workflows. It's just good old-fashioned engineering advice, right? Start with the simplest thing that actually gets the job done. So yeah, you might see all these flashy headlines saying DAGs are dead or whatever, but the reality is way more nuanced. This isn't a battle. It's not like one is going to win and the other will disappear. It is a classic engineering trade-off. The real question you have to ask is, what does my specific problem need? Does it need rock-solid reliability? Or does it need that creative, flexible problem-solving?
All right, let's jump to signal number 4. Because all this stuff we've been talking about, the new models, the different ways of building things, it's all leading to a massive shift in the actual tools we use and even in how we talk to our computers.
So one of the biggest changes is happening in how we actually write software. There's this new best practice emerging called Spec-Driven Development. Basically, the job is changing. Instead of typing out every single line of code, an engineer's role becomes more of an architect. First, you write a really clear spec, a document that says exactly what you want the code to do. Then you hand that off to an AI coding tool, and it generates all the code for you. And then, and this is the crucial part, the human engineer comes back in to review, test, and polish that AI-generated code. It's a totally new way of working, a real partnership.
But the new toolkit isn't just for developers writing code. It's about the interface for everyone. And this one number right here, this is a huge clue about what's coming next. Just think about it. You can speak 4 to 5 times faster than you can type. That is a massive amount of untapped potential for how we interact with our computers.
And what does that lead to? Well, a pretty big prediction. The idea is that over the next 10 years or so, voice is going to take over. It's going to become the main way we interact with all our technology. The models are finally getting good enough at understanding us and using tools so we can have actual, useful conversations with our devices. And that, right there, is why every big company in Silicon Valley is pouring money into voice and audio right now.
Okay, last section. Let's bring all of this back down to earth and talk about you. Because with everything changing so fast, it is so easy to feel overwhelmed, right? Like you're constantly trying to catch up and you're always falling behind. But I want to give you a bit of a reality check here, and hopefully it's a reassuring one.
This chart right here is fascinating. And this isn't just some random survey data. This comes from actual project requests that a real AI company received. And just look at the numbers. Half, 50% of the companies that are trying to get into AI are admitting they have no idea where to even begin. Another quarter are just getting started. So seriously, the fact that you're even watching this, thinking about these signals, that puts you way, way ahead of most people.
So please, here's the most important thing to remember. Don't get distracted or scared by the new model that comes out every week. That's just noise. The fundamental skills, the real engineering principles, like how to build a reliable workflow, how to properly engineer a prompt, that stuff isn't changing. The models on top might get swapped out, but the solid engineering foundation you build, that lasts.
And that's pretty much it. We've covered a lot, right? The limits of today's models, the huge ecosystems being built, those key engineering debates, and the new tools changing how we work. The AI world is full of noise. It's just a fact. So I guess the only question left to ask is, in a world full of noise, what's the signal that you're going to choose to follow? Thanks for tuning in.